Yes, folks, it's a bit late in the day for me to be talking about euthanasia now, given that around 70% of people have already voted, and I apologise for this. Now, I have already voted no in the referendum, and I did this without even really paying much attention to it. And I did this because Jacinda supported it, and that was reason enough for me to say no. Now, it wasn't until Anna R. made a great comment about this issue over on Ruby's channel that I really started looking at it much more closely, and I'm really pleased I did because, and I'm really happy that I actually voted no. Now, I posted her comment on the top of the comments page below. Anyway, the first 3 clips I'll play today will give you a bit of background. Now, folks, I've posted a link to this article in the description below. Comparison of proposed New Zealand law with other jurisdictions. Now, these 2 points here are the main ones. Eligible age, New Zealand is 18 plus. Medical prerequisite is terminal, 6 months. Now, this sounds fine, doesn't it? And I think most people are buying into this. And I would think most people agree with this. But it won't stay there. None of these things stay there. They will tweak it and tweak it and tweak it. And New Zealand will follow the rest of the world. So the Netherlands is 12 to 15, Belgium up to 17, Canada 18 plus, Oregon 18 plus, Luxembourg 16, Colombia 6 to 13, Western Australia 18, Victoria, Australia 18, Switzerland no limit. So I'll just scroll down to another bit that's important. Arguments for and against legalising euthanasia, and I'll just read the opposing views. So we have role of doctors, antithetical to first do no harm, legal. Law protects the vulnerable, difficult to prevent expansion of eligibility criteria, violates legal tradition and purpose of protecting life, difficult to protect patients from coercion. Vulnerable people, possibility of cases progressing to euthanasia without an explicit wish to die. Mental health, end of life, depression and anxiety are often treatable. Criteria expansion, slippery slope. Signals poor legal safeguards could make coercion more likely. Moral, sanctity of life, perverse incentives for euthanasia, unintended influences on funding on provision of health care. Cultural, life unworthy of life becomes a socially acceptable concept. Now I'll just scroll down to things that have already changed in other countries. Examples of criteria expansion include Belgium removing the age limit for euthanasia and subsequently a 9-year-old with brain tumour and an 11-year-old with cystic fibrosis have been euthanized. Colombia allowing euthanasia for children aged 6 plus. Netherlands developing the Groningen Protocol and common law precedents for children under 1 year of age. A proposed bill in Canada removing the requirement that death be foreseeable. Oregon relaxing the required waiting cooling off period for those with lesser life expectancy, and a proposed bill removing the requirement for a 6-month prognosis. Now folks, I've also posted a link to this article in the description below as well. Here are 8 reasons why you should vote no in the binding referendum and keep New Zealand safe from this fatally flawed act. 1. There is no reliable safeguard to prevent someone being pressured into euthanasia or assisted suicide. One doctor is simply required to do their best to detect pressure, and they can only speak to people that the patient lets him speak to. 2. No independent witness is required at any point in the process, even at the time the lethal dose is injected, taken. 3. There is no protection against secret euthanasia or assisted suicide. Family do not have to be consulted or even informed. 4. There is no requirement to ensure that the person is mentally competent on the day the lethal dose is injected, taken. 5. There is no protection for terminally ill people who are also depressed or mentally ill. 6. There is no required cooling off period before the lethal dose is prescribed. 7. There is no protection against medical errors about the course of an illness or how long a person has left to live. And 8. More than 200 lawyers and over 1,600 doctors have publicly denounced this act as bad law. Yes, folks, many people haven't got a clue what they're actually voting for. A nationwide Courier Market Research poll, and Courier Market Research is a reputable company, showed the vast majority of New Zealanders are confused about what this act aims to legalise. 74% of New Zealanders thought the act would make it legal for people to choose to have machines turned off that are keeping them alive, when in fact this is already legal. 70% of New Zealanders thought the act would make it legal for people to choose not to be resuscitated, when again people can already ask for such a request to be added to their medical file. 75% of New Zealanders thought the act made euthanasia available to terminally ill people only as a last resort, after all treatments have been tried to control their pain. However, the End of Life Choice Act does not require an eligible person to have tried any pain relief or palliative care before requesting a lethal dose. Or to have a consultation with a palliative care or pain specialist to find out what options are available to them. And this is what's going to happen, folks.
I know that when people suffer, and we see a lot of suffering in the pain clinic, that people may not feel like life is a gift and may not feel that they are valuable to their families and their community. But I think it's often hard for patients to see their own value, and often it is in plain sight for people around them, but they often perceive themselves as of a lesser value or invaluable to society just because they have an irremediable problem such as pain or a condition such as the one that Kylie suffers from.
What happens then if one or two of those doctors were to talk with me about euthanasia? It would be very, very difficult for me to exclude that from my mind, I would feel a sense of pressure. All of a sudden, I'm having to consider things I've never had to consider before. The cost of my treatment, or am I worthy of it? Should I have it, or is it just more of a burden on society? And what happens when society starts having conversations about the fact that, well, why are we supporting her when she's eligible for euthanasia? Because if she had euthanasia, we could redirect this money over here.
Yes. And of course, there's the typical left-wing hypocrisy.
The irony is, we have one of the highest youth suicide rates in the world, and we're having a conversation about, you know, young people and suicide and don't kill yourself and there's life and there's things to live for. And yet, on the other hand, we're having a conversation about euthanasia where we're saying it's okay to want to end your life.
Yes. Yeah, double think through and through. And the following is where we're heading, folks.
A 17-year-old Dutch girl reportedly used euthanasia to end her life because she had PTSD from being sexually abused as a child. This is Noah. She was raped at 11 and again at 14. Since then, she'd been dealing with depression and anorexia. Her sister confirmed that she died Sunday in her home, but it is unclear if she passed away because she refused to eat and drink or if doctors played a role. Assisted suicide is legal in the Netherlands. Even children as young as 12 may request end-of-life services, but require a parent's consent. A very narrow window allows for a doctor to give someone end-of-life drugs. Erica, what do you think about having a minor?
So heartbroken by the story, because I understand what it's like to relive a day of your life and think that if this day never happened, then my entire life would be different. And generally you say that it's going to be different for the better, but people have to understand, regardless of what has happened to you in this life, there is always a path to get over. This story scares me because I can see people folding to the pressure, feeling like, I can't get past this incident, I can't get past this day. But it's so important that we say this, that you can get past it.
Exactly. Now, I think it's fair to say that most people go through a dark period in their lives and they get through it. And then there's this.
There will not be any type of miracle that at once I will have my life spirit back again. If I'm happy, I'm extremely happy. If I'm down, I'm extremely down. I just live in extremes all the time. And that's, you get really tired of going up and down and up and down, because sometimes you have a good day or a couple of good hours, and then something happens, or sometimes it just comes unexpectedly, and boom, I'm down again. And that's, you get exhausted by it, absolutely exhausted. It's almost a year now that I decided that I don't want to live anymore. I would like to have the euthanasia as fast as possible. For most of the time, if not all the time, I'm still thinking that euthanasia is the way that I will end my life, and that will be the decision I will make. But the biggest difference is, I guess, is that if I go, I really want to have the feeling that I tried everything I could.
Yeah, and that's not even a requirement in New Zealand's euthanasia law. And then there's Dr. Death.
As she opens the door to her home, this 34-year-old Belgian woman known as Ava seems at ease. But actually, she's chronically depressed. More than once, she's tried to commit suicide. And now she's asking doctors to help her die by euthanasia. All of it captured in a Belgian documentary.
Lijkt inderdaad misschien een beetje raar.
It may seem strange, but I'm looking forward to the rest. The choice has been made, the decision has been made. I'm looking forward to the rest I've longed for so long.
It may sound shocking, but in Belgium, euthanasia is quite accepted. And it's not just for the terminally ill. Chronically depressed patients like Ava can request it too. And so, on a day and time she's chosen, Ava says goodbye to her family.
Ava, are you ready?
Yes, I am ready, doctor.
And then lays down on her couch.
Would you like to say something to your brother and sister-in-law?
Bye.
The man kneeling by her side, about to give her the lethal injection, is her doctor for the past 2 years, Dr. Mark Van Huey. Doctor, how many euthanasias have you performed yourself?
More than 100.
More than 100, yes, Dr. Death. And the numbers are astonishing.
From the Missouri School of Journalism, welcome to Global Journalist. I'm Jason McClure. Over the next 2 programs, we're going to take an in-depth look at the issue of euthanasia and physician-assisted suicide. Several European countries, as well as Colombia, Canada, and 6 U.S. states, allow either euthanasia or physician-assisted suicide, and as more jurisdictions consider allowing terminally ill patients to end their lives voluntarily, we thought it would be illustrative to take a look at this issue in the Netherlands, the first country to formally legalize the practice. Now, euthanasia had been generally accepted there for decades. It was put into law by its parliament in 2001. Now, since 2007, the numbers of people dying this way have risen significantly to nearly 7,000 in 2017. That's about 4% of all the deaths in the country that year.
4%. Wow. Ah, yes. Less pensions to pay and less hospital bills to pay. Yeah, now folks, today I'll finish on a different topic. 1% Billy is now less than 0.5% Billy. In a courier poll in Titai Tokerau the other day, he got less than 0.5%. In a week's time, the guy will be gone, along with all the money people donated.